do we do the reading as well in our podcast? And I was like, no, we want people to read it for themselves, because I pull so much more out of it when I read it than when I listen to it or when I hear somebody else tell it to me. Welcome to the Bible in 1 Year podcast, brought to you by two Brits and a Bible. Today is day 72, covering Joshua 9, 10 and 11.
In Joshua 9, the kings west of the Jordan join together to fight Israel. Gibeon deceives them and makes a treaty with Israel and then becomes Israel's servants. In Joshua 10, Joshua leads Israel in conquering Jerusalem and many other places, and the sun miraculously stands still. And in Joshua 11, Jabin, king of Hazor, with many kingdoms in the north, fight against Israel, but Joshua leads Israel in destroying these kingdoms. Oh, it's so much easier to do. You're right there, mate.
I've realised I've done my little ball again. I was playing with my little blue and black and red and green. Where my little ball is. I'm 3 episodes in this evening.
Yeah. Well, do you need a little sippy juice as well while you're at it? Like, anyway, fair enough. Oh, you actually do as well. Okay.
It's Southern country. You can take the boy out of bucks, but you can't take the bucks out of the boy.
I love that so much. Okay, I was just going to say that I'm pretty happy with how much quicker I can do 3 summaries than 4. But anyway, Joshua 9. So somewhat odd story about the Gibeonites. But what I loved is that even when Israel doesn't go to God, makes an oath that God doesn't sanction, God still honors the oath that Israel puts forth.
Yes.
For the Gibeonites. And don't get me wrong, it's not a happy ending for the Gibeonites, really. They're then basically Israel's servants, but they're spared.
It's better than dying.
From destruction. Much better than dying. And many of them would have assumedly been saved and converted over a lifetime, whereas obviously many of the others would not have had that opportunity. So I just thought that was pretty cool, actually.
I thought it very interesting that the Israelites sampled their provisions to check that they were like stale bread and stuff like that, but they didn't inquire of God at that point. Like, they know the God who doesn't look at outward appearance, but looks at within. Shouldn't we check with the dude that can do that rather than how stale the bread is? Apparently my mum baked some bread the other day and it just turned out crap. So that could have been fresh out the oven. It could have been like, whoa, you guys aren't doing very well.
That's absolutely brilliant. And then those are the people that are then baking the bread for the Israelites afterwards. So,
it's above their pay grade.
That's above their pay grade, 100%. So speaking of above the pay grade, the fact that Joshua, it says in the summary that Joshua leads Israel to destroy the kingdoms, but actually then Joshua 10:11, it says, the Lord hurled large hailstones down on them, and more of them were killed from the hail than the swords of the Israelites. So you were saying the other day about God doing the heavy lifting. We just have to be obedient and do some of the grunt work. But again, it's just like God's power and glory, right? Like, I can have them all wiped out. You're just there because I want you there.
Yeah, again, it's like having my little boy help me with projects. It's not helping me, but it gives him a sense of purpose to be able to help me. And so, all right, dude, come on, help out.
That's such a good analogy.
Indeed. I quite found it interesting here in Joshua 10 that it is saying, Joshua 10 verse 8, the Lord said to Joshua, do not be afraid of them. I have given them into your hand. Not one of them will be able to withstand you. Again, God using outside of time, God using past tense, say, I have given. I'm going to, I have given them into your hand. Again, we just need to step in and do what he is actually telling us to do, basically.
That's so interesting because, like you said, it's already done. Yeah. As soon as God wills it, it's done.
Yeah, exactly. He knows the end from the beginning. He knows what's going to happen. So here we are.
Yeah, here's what's trippy, I suppose, when you then think of the latter stages of like the book of Revelation, for example, right? That's all still, in God's eyes, that's already still past tense. Yeah. Everything has already been done. Yeah. That's crazy. True. That's really cool. So I had also
the sun. I was going to say, did you have much to say about the sun stopping in the sky? Because I had a point on that from the apologetics.
Go for it. That's what I was going to go for it.
Well, I want to hear what you were going to say first.
Oh, I was literally just going to say the sun stopped in the middle of the sky and delayed going down about a full day. Joshua 10:13. I said I think the Apologetics Bible might do better than me here, but I said it's mental to think that God is performing miracles to uphold an oath the Israelites made without him. And it just shows how he can use anything to his glory.
So the Apologetics Bible says it's mental. That it doesn't. I just, because you said that. Yeah, I'm on a weird one today. So what the Apologetics Bible was saying was this is more than just a record of astronomical events. The supposed gods of the Canaanites were very much prominent with the sun, the god of the moon, all this stuff. So actually, this isn't just the sun standing still. This is God being like, you know, those gods that you worship? Watch this.
Yeah.
Leaving it there for a day. Like, I'm bigger than that. Like, Canaanites would see that and be like praying to the sun and the moon. Just stops. Like, oh, what do we do now? Just there with his like puppet strings. He doesn't work like that. I need to stop talking. Yeah. All right. Cool. Carry on.
That was actually really great though, because I didn't make that connection at all. And you know, again, this is why it's good to read the Bible, folks, and why it's good to read apologetics and other things like that.
Yeah, maybe to a lady today from a worship thing that I was at from church, and she was asking, do we do the reading as well in our podcast? And I was like, no, we want people to read it for themselves, because I pull so much more out of it when I read it than when I listen to it or when I hear somebody else tell it to me. And reading different translations and study Bibles and stuff, pull so much more out of it. It's just, we don't want to be spoon feeding this. The idea, as you should, faithful listeners and watchers know by now, we want you to be in the word for yourselves. So crack on.
Yeah, crack on. Exactly right. Something I thought was interesting about Joshua 10, it talks about, I just put, so he literally just kills everyone. Because that's basically, you know, he goes to this place and everyone dies and put to the sword and whatever. I said, this is, you know, way above my pay grade, obviously, and yours, by the way. Is it a mini flood type deal to, you know, because God promised that he would never do a full flood again, but he is wiping out swathes of people, sinful people, Canaanite culture, right?
Yeah.
And it's to be able to, you know, get the land back, to start again, to have more faithful people and so on, right? I just thought that was quite interesting. And then just quickly combine that with Joshua 11:9. This one hit me pretty hard as a former vegan and someone who still cares about animal rights somewhat, that Joshua was directed to hamstring the horses. And I was like, that can't be what I think it is, but it is.
Yeah.
Slicing the hamstrings of the animals and burning the chariots. And I did a bit of apologetics reading myself on this bit. And it said that the Israelites were not trained to use horses and chariots. And there were several reasons for this. One of them would be because God wanted the Israelite armies to rely on his power over the power of technology that other cultures would be trying to rely on, and also therefore give the full glory to him in these battles. And when you think about the hailstone wiping out most, that makes a lot of sense. So hamstringing the animals was part of, to make sure the Israelites weren't tempted to create their own chariots and their own, you know.
That makes sense. And I know that they're so trained for battle that they wouldn't be able to be put effectively to use, like to plow fields or anything, because they're just built so differently. Right. So they would have been, if they're not using them for battle, just consuming feed, basically. So yeah, it's harsh, but it makes sense. It makes a lot of sense, I guess. The imagery around in Joshua 10:22-27, having the kings brought to them, putting their feet on their necks, like just a sign of power and might, basically. And I guess I don't think you probably can read into it a lot, but just again, don't know, something about that just hit me. It was like, wow, this Joshua dude, he's hardcore now, man.
Yeah. No, 100%. And I mean, they were all locked in a cave, weren't they, until they're ready? Can you imagine going from being a king of a land to, all right, get in the cave. What? Yeah, we're going to roll this boulder over till we're ready for you.
For sure.
Bend down. It's crazy, isn't it? Again, it's just pointing to the glory of God and God's people and what he can bring kings low like that. Yeah. And he can hold the sun, by the way.
Yeah, just casually.
Yeah. It's pretty cool. You said need a map. I'd like to hear about that one.
So, well, this is kind of what I was chatting about at the end of Deuteronomy with, I think it was, this whole book was a town meeting, basically. Now, this whole book of Joshua is this absolute conquest. And the time frames of those two books just so different. And I just want to see a map. And I just Googled it quickly, but to see exactly where this whole conquest was it a massive scale thing? Was it quite small? Whatever. Anyway, another day, innit? Thanks for watching, listening at 2 Brits and a Bible.
Please consider liking and subscribing to help spread the word of God.